picked up this Project Q Bert arcade game that was in such bad shape it could have been featured in one of those "do not attempt this at home" videos. Someone had already restored it once, which is generous wording because what they really did was glue a tech Frankenstein together and then just gave up. Inside, we found actual light bulbs jammed in where a proper fluorescent marquee light should have been. That's not retro. That's a hostage situation for electricity. Then there was the LED monitor, which was just kind of dangling inside the cabinet, barely clinging to life with brackets that seemed to be installed by someone while blindfolded. The control panel, total crime scene, wrong joystick, wrong attachment bolts, and under the already bad overlay was another equally tragic overlay, like someone had been trying to cover up the evidence. The T-molding was installed incorrectly, the front kickplate looked like it had lost a fight in a movie theater, and there was so much bondo on it you'd think we were prepping it for NASCAR. So we tore it all apart, we sanded down the lumpy bondo until our arms were begging for mercy. We added primer, sanded it again, added more primer, sanded some more, and finally rolled on fresh paint. When we dragged it out into the sunlight, it actually gleamed. For the first time since Just Say No was a thing, this Q Bert cabinet didn't look like it needed a tetanus shot. The kickplate was a full 180 from the disaster we hauled home. So apparently, instead of turning the volume knob like a normal human being, the last owner of this Q Bert thought, hey, why not just slap tape over the speaker grill? Problem solved. It's like using duct tape as a mute button. It technically works, but it's also a cry for help. We yanked it off, sanded away years of bad decisions, hit it with primer and paint, and by the time we screwed it back into place, this speaker grill looked so clean, it could have been mistaken for brand new. It was almost offended to be going back onto the same machine. Next up, the coin door. This thing got lucky because we just happened to have an exact match already powder-coated and looking like it had just stepped out of a Vegas makeover show. Of course, assembling it wasn't easy. We played a tense round of what coin door part is this Tetris, shuffling around metal bits that all looked identical until you realize one's upside down and another one's from a completely different door. Eventually, we pieced it together, slapped some paint on the tired parts we had to swap, and then moved on to the marquee. Now, the marquee had unacceptable light bulbs installed previously, so instead we wired in a warm LED. And when we popped that Q Bert marquee back on, glorious. It looked like Q Bert himself had just moved into a swanky high-rise. Next mission, coin door reject lights. First, we hunt down where the power sneaks in. It's always tucked somewhere that makes you question your career in arcade restoration. Once we find it, we whip up a mini harness for the new bulbs, snap it in, and boom, the red glow is back. Now, it's not just a glow, it's daring you. It's practically yelling, hey, go ahead, drop in a Canadian quarter and see what happens, bro. After this, I went rummaging through the attic like a squirrel with a union card and found not one, but two Wells Gardner monitors. So I lugged them downstairs like I'd found my stash of pecans from 2024. I stared at both monitors, swapped parts around indiscriminately, and finally got a picture that sort of looked right. It had this lovely shade of radioactive pea soup, but was definitely missing something. So, I did the tiny screwdriver adjustment dance, cranked up the B+ voltage until suddenly the much sought-after white and blue home screen was glowing a hello to me. After enough fiddling to qualify as a backup band member for 2000's era Taylor Swift, I finally got a crisp image on the test pattern generator. We cycled through all the screens, including the one with the checkered flag that screams, "Congratulations, you used up your entire afternoon, but hey, at least you did it properly." When it was finally ready, I marched it outside and proudly sat it next to the cabinet like a new family portrait. The cabinet's got a power plug for the monitor, but the monitor itself, oh, it's rocking a completely different plug. It's like showing up to a wedding in flip-flops and no one's happy about it. Now, some people might cry at this point, but don't do that. Instead, you do what we did. Grab every wiring toy you own and play Electric Frankenstein until you've built a custom adapter. This way, we don't have to chop off the perfectly good end of either plug. Who even cares which one was correct? While we were elbows deep in wiring chaos, we noticed this JAMA harness looked like it'd been held together by hope, dreams, and several layers of electrical tape. What exactly did this spaghetti of wires do? I could not tell you. So, instead of solving a mystery that no one asked me to solve, I filed it away in our usual cabinet labeled "Never Again." Now, on top of all the other crimes against arcade humanity, the last guy stuck a Game Elf PCB in this thing. For the uninitiated, that's basically a little box that runs MAME and hopes you won't notice that you're not actually playing real Q Bert, but we noticed. So we yeeted that thing straight into the witness protection program and grabbed ourselves a shiny JROK Mylstar FPGA PCB instead. This board actually recreates the original Q Bert hardware, so when you're hopping around a pyramid yelling cartoon swears, that feels authentic. We wired it into a brand new JAMA harness, slapped on a switching power supply, fed video into the monitor, and boom, we're in business. Sure, technically you can play other games on this setup, but this cabinet's sworn its allegiance to Q Bert for life now. The Game Elf's whereabouts? Let's just say it's on vacation and leave it at that. And hey, you've reached the part of the video where I go off script and just give you a narrative play-by-play. This is where the control panel connects, and these bolts can be seen somewhat clearly on the left side. But if you go to the right side and check out the bolts and then look on the outer part of the cabinet, you cannot find them. They are not there. I don't know what this guy was doing. They're in there deep. This is just going to have to stay this way. We were able to prime those sides and get everything looking nice so that we could paint it and have it look decent, right? This is the existing control panel. We were then able to address problems with the T-molding. I was able to get all the little channels cleaned up. I was able to take the original T-molding that came with the cabinet when I bought it and reinstall it, and now it looks fantastic. No more weird bumps. Also, this bracket got some love. Now it's going to look beautiful. And this vent that was on the back, I didn't know what to do with it, and I asked my buddy about it, and then he said this. Yeah, So, okay, so we went inside, and there was another vent on the bottom, on the inside, so we swapped them around. And then the outside vent now looks beautiful, and the inside vent looks terrible, so don't go in there. Now let's address our control panel. The bolts are wrong. You can't put a Q Bert joystick in here. And what is this stuff? I don't even know. So I went to the eBays. I found a control panel that had only been partially butchered. It did still have its bolts that you can put the joystick on. There are 2 extra buttons on it. I think we'll be able to address that. The control panel overlay here, though, pretty horrendous. It's seen some things. It looks like there was another overlay on it and somebody just pulled it off. Here's where our joystick's going to attach. That's going to look really nice once we get it all done. So we grab our premium stripper, which is like regular stripper, except for it costs extra money. And we just lay it out on the control panel overlay. And this is like one of my favorite parts of any restoration is when you melt the control panel overlay. It looks like that guy in RoboCop. Remember that part? I can't talk about it too much. All right, and here we are scraping off the goo once the stripper has broken down the overlay into its basic goo portions. I don't know. Anyway, we're exposing everything here. It looked like that there were several overlays. It's like it was a Q Bert, and then it was something else, and then it was a Q Bert, and then it was something else. But we're going to make it a Q Bert again. So here we are drying it off after we've scraped, and then we're going to go need to sand all of the paint and any remaining glue off. And once we're done, it's beautiful. It's completely sanded. Look at that stainless steel. Fantastic. Now, we can't apply artwork directly to the stainless steel. This is just me making sure the holes are where they belong, except for these 2 holes. So I took some sheet metal, cut it into squares, and then used JB Weld to sort of reattach the hole. Does that make sense? There you go. Look at that. That looks nice. Now, there is a little bit of a cavity, so we had to get some bondo. I needed activator to get my bondo to be activated, I guess. And for some reason, activator is blue now. It was pink. I wonder if people thought it was edible before. Yeah, this is going to look great. Trust me, I am going to sand it. It's just too rough if you just leave it the way it is. We sand it down, and now the control panel is looking tight. It's great. Now, primering it. Here we go. I don't know why I chose a satin black. I usually do that on any of the metal stuff I do. I felt like maybe I should have used a white. Here's the Q Bert joystick that's supposed to be there all mounted and nice. I need it here so that the overlay is positioned correctly. This is a pretty simple process. We basically tape it down once we're happy with where the holes line up. That's what that blue tape is on the right. And then very slowly, my preference is to take the the backing that was on it before and to rub it. You can also use other things. Some people use cotton, some people use a credit card. I didn't want to damage it, and this backing is pretty soft. It's kind of like a cookie sheet. Occasionally I find a bubble and I try to smooth it out towards the edge. That's super fun. If you can't move your bubble out of the way, you can always take like a needle and poke it, and then that'll release the air. Then you'll be able to smooth that out. All right, here we are doing the other half. I am smoothing the guy out here. This process, you should never rush it, because the fewer the bubbles, the better the troubles. Wait, no, the fewer the bubbles, the lesser the trouble. Yeah, I think that's it. Hey, why is this upside down? Can we who's in charge here? Is there somebody that's able to flip this guy around? Let me see what I can do. Hold on a second. That's much better. Okay, good. All right. I don't know who was I talking to. I was talking to me. All right, I'm getting the last of the bubbles out. And I'm preparing myself. I'm steeling myself, because I'm going to have to take the excess that goes over the edges and bend it over these sides. So I take my heat gun that I usually use to shrink tubing, when I'm making wiring, and I heat up the control panel overlay so that it's sort of getting used to it. It makes it more pliable, and I highly recommend this. If there's something that you're bending and it really doesn't want to go, it could be a wire. It could be rubber hoses. Go get a heat gun. It's fantastic. I mean, you can try to use a hairdryer, but this guy is extremely hot. I mean, I think it exceeds 400 or 500 degrees. You would not want to dry your hair with this heat gun. All right, so last little bit there. It's looking really good. Very nice. We've still got the other side to do, and then we're going to be done for the moment. You know what? What else do I have to do? I got to put a knocker in the cabinet. Did you know Q Bert has a knocker from a pinball machine inside of it? Yeah, we're gonna do that right after we get the last little bends in. We've got the bends. All right. Again, the heat gun, they're great. They sell them at most electronic stores. You can also get them for melting shrink wrap. Like for VHS tapes and stuff. Same basic principle. All right. Check our work. Looks great. We're gonna put our buttons in later. Very nice. All right, we did it. Now, the last step of our journey was installing this knocker assembly. Q Bert used parts that Gottlieb had on hand. In this case, it's a solenoid, and when it fires, it's going to bang that metal shaft into this metal contraption. Here's the 12-volt line. It has an inline fuse in case things get crazy and the solenoid goes nuts. And here it is attached to the switcher. Now, how is this guy being fired off? That's a good question. If we go back, we can see that the ground is going to be followable all the way to where our JAMA harness is in. And what it's doing is whenever the meter would click and show that a quarter had been put in, it's just going to use that same line. You know what? I should really shut up. Why don't we play the worst game of Q Bert ever, where we're going to repeatedly fire the knocker. Let's go! We did it, folks. We took what was basically a Q Bert impersonator, some weird, poorly restored fever dream, and turned it into an actual Q Bert machine again. And I mean, it's so good, it's practically 1982 all over again, except for with fewer disco shirts and more lower back pain. And hey, if you enjoyed watching this mutant machine get a second chance at life, drop us a like. It takes a second, and it makes me feel like I know what I'm doing. Do you want to see more restorations where I yell at ancient electronics until they behave? Well, smash that subscribe button. And if you enjoy your phone randomly screaming at you to watch a video about a 40-year-old arcade cabinet, go ahead and hit that notification bell too. That's it for now. We're off to find another classic machine that needs saving before someone else sticks a game elf in it. Woot!